The others? We have to,
Oh, yeah,
I don't know. So,
She's had it for a
I
good
don't really care, but I kind of
I
think
think
it
there's
gets
more
over with
going
sooner.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, you know, every year,
It also
this way,
helps
she
the
gets it
staff.
every year.
Yeah,
So they don't have to spend.
Stay over.
Yeah, they can stay over.
I guess the problem is the public,
She's got-
accessibility.
I've heard
Something else going on.
both ways.
Seeing enough that.
Oh, I know.
You give me all my files. I have so many.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. This is the Grand Traverse County Resource Management and Administration Committee meeting. Today is Wednesday, March 12th, 2014. It is a little after 6 p.m. We will call this meeting to order. If you have a cell phone, if you can put it on silent or vibrate, that would be very much assisted or appreciated.
Left it in my car.
Good move.
Oh, there it is.
And I just adjusted mine. And we will open the meeting with the pledge. We would stand. Commissioner Thomas, you can lead us.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. We have the clerk do the roll call, please.
Commissioner Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Thomas? Yep. Rennie?
Here.
Max Bauer?
I'm sure she's excused for being ill.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm sure she's excused for
still
being
ill?
ill. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Limcool?
Here.
Lathrop?
Here.
Inman?
Here. Okay, we've got a quorum. The next item is the approval of the February 12th regular minutes of the RMA meeting. So moved by Commissioner Rennie. Support. Second by Commissioner Wheelock. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes. Thank you. That leads us to our first public comment, and if the clerk could read the rules on public comment.
Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Board of Commissioners which is required to be open to the public under the provision of the Michigan Open Meetings Act. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. Any person wishing to address the board shall state his or her name and address. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions, if any. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. The chairperson may, at his or her discretion, extend the amount of time any person is allowed to speak. Public comment will be solicited during the 2 public comment periods noted in Rule 5.4 Order of Business. However, public comment will generally be received at any time during the meeting regarding a specific topic currently under discussion by the board. Members of the public wishing to comment should raise their hand or pass a note to the clerk in order to be recognized and shall not address the board until called upon by the chairperson.
Okay, you've heard the guidelines on public comment, and if you'd like to come up, get yourself introduced. We'll make sure everyone has enough time to speak on our first public comment. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Andy Merrick. I'm a trustee at the Traverse Area District Library Board. I'm here to solicit public comment on our upcoming strategic plan we're going to be doing on the 27th of March at 5:30 at the library in the McGuire Room. One of the topics of conversation is going to be where we're going to have services. I'd like to hear from constituents as well as from some of the commissioners what you envision the district library being, since it's the taxpayers' money being funded. I don't want it just being what my opinion is, but I'd like to hear some of what your guys are hearing from your constituents as well as what your constituents are. You can email me at amerrick@tattle.org or go through the website and comment to all the trustees. I know we'd like to hear what your input would be, so it's not just us taking a shot at the dark. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Seeing no hands for additional public comment, we will close public comment. There'll be time at the end of the meeting, as well as if you have a particular agenda item, if you can get my attention or the clerk's attention, if you wish to speak on that matter. We will now move on to the approval agenda. I have 2 items, probably actually 3 items. First is we need for the claims on March 25th. That's Tuesday the 25th. the last Tuesday of the month. The MAC conference is going on Tuesday and Wednesday down in Lansing. We have claims scheduled at 10 o'clock, and Commissioner Thomas is scheduled for that. Both Commissioner Max Bauer and I will be down at the MAC conference and not coming back until close to our meeting time on Wednesday, because it ends around noon or 1 o'clock on Wednesday. So I guess the opinion was not to delay the claims until Wednesday. So we need, I believe, Commissioner Lemkool, myself, Commissioner Rennie. Is Commissioner Lathrop going to MAC?
No.
Michigan Association of Counties? Okay, so we need a commissioner to work with Commissioner Thomas on claims at 10 o'clock in the morning on March 25th, who is not going to the Michigan Association's conference in Lansing.
I can do it, or
Either way.
either way, it doesn't make.
So you're not going to MAC either? Okay. You want to volunteer?
Sure.
All right.
I'll
Okay.
cover it.
All right, so we need a motion to have Commissioner Lemkool substitute myself or Commissioner Max Bauer for that meeting.
So move.
Okay, is there a second? Moved by Commissioner Wheelock, seconded by Commissioner Lathrop, to allow Commissioner Lemkool to do claims and accounts for March 25th. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes. Are you going to be there March 25th?
If I'm still alive, yeah.
All right, okay. Let me know.
My only question is, we were going to approve the agenda.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're exactly right. We got ahead of ourselves.
We just made a motion that was out of order.
We got ahead of ourselves. So we need to put that, we'll with the discretion of the board, I'll withdraw that motion, and we'll put that under new business. And that is the March 25th meeting of the Audit Committee. Yeah, sorry, you got hold of myself here. And then the other issue is that claims met on, the Audit Committee met on March 11th at 10 a.m. That would be Commissioner Thomas, myself, and Max Bauer, and agreed that we would bring a recommendation back to this board, back to RMA, I guess with, it doesn't have to be the full ratification of the board. We can just wait till the end of the month if you wish. But what we'd like to do is have the Audit Committee, that would be Commissioner Thomas, myself, and Max Bauer, meet with either our Prosecuting Attorney Bob Cooney or Deputy Civil Counsel Chris Forsett, and review the county's last document describing the qualifications for per diem, so we can review that with our counsel and tighten up the language and the definition, so it would help clarify not only for current commissioners, but commissioners that would be coming in on the next election, exactly what counts as a per diem, what doesn't, so we don't have this unusual circumstance that occurred that we felt pretty bad about. So, any event, I want to put that under new business B, is to have the consent of the RMA committee to have us do a review with civil counsel and then bring back a recommendation, if that's the way you want to see it, have it done on per diems. So with that, and then, Dave, do you need this letter on the board?
This
March
is part
11th?
of the, I would think this is part of the
Jail discussion.
Okay. So
item
is there,
9B2.
all right, so the letter will be added to 9B2. Everybody comfortable with that? We have the letter there. All right, with that, I need a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Rennie, seconded by Commissioner Lathrop. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. We have an agenda. Moving on to consent calendar. If the clerk can read the consent calendar, please.
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file or approval, is approved by a single committee action adopting the consent calendar. A, receive and file. Number 1, Commission on Aging Monthly Report for January. Number 2, Veteran Services Monthly Report for January. Number 3, Community Corrections Monthly Report, January. Number 4, Resource Recovery Managers Report. Number 5, Conservation District Monthly Report, February. Number 6, updated assignment list for 2014. B, approval. Number 1, CCAB contract approval, addiction treatment services. Number 2, 2014 hauler licenses.
Okay, the clerk has read the consent calendars. This is a recommendation coming in from staff. They would like to have us approve all in one vote. Does any member of the public wish to pull an item off the consent calendar for further discussion in our meeting? Seeing none, we will move to the Board of Commissioners. Does any commissioner wish to remove an item from the consent calendar? Commissioner Lemkool.
Yeah, I'd like 5, A5.
Okay, A5. Okay, Lemkool. Anyone else? Seeing none, we need a motion to approve the
Chairman, I
consent
would move
calendar.
to approve the consent calendar with the exception of item A5.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Wheelock, seconded by Commissioner Rennie, to approve the consent calendar with the exception of A5. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yep.
Rennie?
Yes.
Lemkool?
Yep.
Lathrop?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Inman.
Yes. Okay, we have that approved. We will now move on to special orders of business, and there are none tonight. We then move to the items removed from the consent calendar, which is item A5. Commissioner Lemkool, you have the floor.
Yeah, I appreciate that. For the last 3 or 4 months, I've been trying to request from the Conservation District a copy of their board minutes to be sent to the commissioners.
Okay.
We're not getting it. So I'm asking for the Board of Commissioners to send a letter to the Board of Conservation District requesting a copy of their minutes to be sent to us on a monthly basis.
All right. You want to make that, is that a motion?
That's my motion.
All right, is there a second?
Support.
All right, moved by Commissioner Lemkool, seconded by Commissioner Wheelock to send a letter signed by our chairman, Chairman Lemkool, to request minutes on a monthly basis on the Conservation District to the Board of Commissioners.
I think they provide us a monthly report of what the staff does, but I
Yeah.
think it would be interesting to see
What the minutes are.
what the minutes read that the board does.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to get this to you guys. I see them, but I don't think the commission does, and I don't think the public does, and I think it's really important that we get those.
All right, yeah, and just about everyone else sends their minutes in anyway, so, okay, that's a good thought. All right, anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, passes.
Motion to approve the Conservation District monthly report.
Support.
Second.
All right, moved by Commissioner Lemkool, seconded by Commissioner Rennie, to approve the Conservation District monthly report that was pulled from the consent calendar. Roll call vote, please.
I don't think you need a roll call.
I think it was, if it was on a consent calendar, I think you do.
No, well,
Yeah.
Commissioner Rennie?
Yes.
Lemkool?
Yep.
Lathrop?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Thomas?
Yep.
Inman.
Yes. All right. That takes us to, that clears that item up for consent calendar. Moving on to department action items, we have the Road Commission monthly report and the AVL system presentation. You have the floor. Get yourself introduced.
Good evening. Jim Cook, Grand Traverse County Road Commission. I'm assuming I can just click on the mouse or hit enter.
I don't think anything will explode. You'll
Okay.
be okay.
Okay, the first thing I thought I'd do is just go through our monthly report. And it's a little bit dated just because we submitted our stuff on the 5th and our last board meeting was on the 6th. So as far as project updates, staff did make a recommendation on our first 40 miles of road projects this year. Those are the millage-funded projects. And those projects were awarded to Team Elmers. Team Elmers was the low bid on every portion of the project except for Supply Road. But we had some alternates in there, and we chose to go with alternate number 1, which was a better fix. It's going to last longer. It's going to provide a better surface on the road. So we awarded that alternate number 1 on Supply Road to Team Elmers as well. And so the total amount of that was $3.8 million. So again, that's the first 40 miles. We have 32 miles of general fund projects that are out for bid right now, and we'll have those back next Friday. And so we'll kind of know where we're at as far as our projects. And then, of course, we have the state and federally funded project, South Airport Road. That'll be starting in June. And I think there's one more. I won't tell you which one that is because I'm forgetting. But we also had our countywide task force meetings, the rural and the urban task force meetings, and that's where we submit and approve projects. And these are the state and federally funded projects. It's complicated. We have to project which projects we're going to do in the next 5 and 6 years. So any projects that we had on the list were approved to move forward, and then we did add a few more projects for the future. So the Roads at Risk Reserve Fund project, Roads at Risk Reserve Fund. I just talked to Representative Schmidt probably an hour ago, and the committee did vote to approve that emergency winter maintenance overage fund. So they approved $100 million for that. Grand Traverse County Road Commission will receive about $448,000 for that. So that'll be really nice for offsetting our costs, not only for winter maintenance, but for dealing with what's going to become a severe pothole season for us here in Grand Traverse County. I was asked to remind everybody that next week on the 18th is the asset management workshop for elected officials, and they did send me an email today, and none of you are on that list. So
Do you have time and date on that again?
it is the 18th. It is from 9:30 a.m. until 11:30 a.m. and it is at the library.
And what day is it? I mean, the day of the week.
Tuesday.
Tuesday?
Yeah, the 18th. Yeah.
Tuesday, 9:30 to 11:30 at the library,
Mm-hmm.
and that is your asset training.
That's the introduction to transportation asset management, and it's for elected officials. And
Is that any different than what we saw before? I mean, a year ago, I think you went through and one of your employees showed that at the townships.
it's probably a little more nuts and bolts.
This is more
Because I didn't register for it because I thought it was a repeat.
Oh, no. This is different. It's put on
Okay.
by Michigan Tech and some representatives from Michigan Tech, and it's not, it's not the scientific version, but I would say it's the practical, curbside foreman version, and but it is helpful. So.
Okay, so if you're interested, please get a hold of Chris Kramer tomorrow so she can get you registered for that. That'd be great. I'm gonna try to attend. So.
And then,
You said 9 to 12?
pardon?
9 to 12.
9:30, 11:30.
9:30, 11:30.
And the next thing I was planning on doing is I wanted to give you a presentation. Commissioner Limcool had suggested maybe I bring this to the county board, and this is on our AVL GPS system. And so this is a good example of how we took technology basically out in the field with all of our equipment, which really has helped us as far as efficiency. We used less salt this year, and a lot of that was a result of the cold temperatures, but part of it was a result of not going out and starting our routes right after somebody comes off that same route and plowing the salt off the road that we just put down. So, and then also because of this system, we were able to reduce our overtime usage this year, which is pretty amazing compared to, we were about 580 hours less overtime this year in a severe winter compared to last winter, which last winter was pretty tough, but, and again, that's really a result of using the technology and really our management doing a better job of managing staff. So, Grand Traverse County Road Commission. this is kind of hard to read, and I think you did all receive a copy, correct?
Yep, we have it in a packet.
So, this is just a map, and it just, again, talks about the efficiency that we've found by utilizing technology in our application. And it's called AVL GPS, and it's an automated vehicle location system. And so if you look at that, if you look at the map, what it does is those little red dots, they call them breadcrumbs, but basically it tells us, it provides a trail. Wherever our vehicles go, it provides a trail. And so we can, any time of the day or night, if somebody calls or if we're curious, we can get on our laptop and we can call this program up and we can look on the map of Grand Traverse County and we can tell you exactly where every one of our vehicles are. We can tell you how fast they're going. We can tell you, again, GPS coordinates, location. We can tell you their application rate. That's one of the things that made us more efficient this year. We know exactly how much product they're putting down on the road, whether it's sand, pre-wet, or salt. We can also tell you the temperature in the county, air temperature and surface temperature, wherever our trucks are at, and it varies throughout the county. We can tell you when the blade is up and blade is down. And again, I mentioned salting, sanding, and the amounts of material used. And there's a little box in the center of that map, and if we scroll around and we touch any one of those red dots on the map, it gives us that information. Truck number, speed, and all those things. So it's pretty amazing. It also allows us to locate an exact address, which can be used for several purposes. So a lot of times we have people that call in and maybe they have a legitimate concern. Maybe they think that our truck just ran over their mailbox, whatever it is. But the first thing we do is we ask, what is your address? And so all we have to do is punch in the address. It zooms in on the map, shows us their address, and it shows us exactly what vehicle is in the vicinity, but it also shows us what vehicle just went through. And so sometimes people will ask, when's the last time a plow truck came through our subdivision? Or there hasn't been one there in 7 days. We can click on that map and we can say, they were actually through there 2 hours ago. So, so we use it for service requests. If somebody has, again, there's a pothole that needs to be fixed, or there's a big drifted area on a certain road, we can use it for that. We can use it for educating and helping our residents. We can use it to resolve complaints. But I think one of the most important things that we found is we can use it when the first responders call us. Central dispatch calls and they need assistance because a fire truck or an ambulance can't get to a resident, whether it's out of our right-of-way, whether it's in our right-of-way, down a seasonal road, whatever it is. And by using this, we can locate the nearest vehicle and we can radio to them and have them on the scene much quicker than in the past. Before we had to call out and find out where everybody was at. So that I think is very critical. The other thing that we can do is when we receive a call, we can actually zoom in and we call it a viewport, but we can create a viewport on the map, and again, we can see every vehicle in the area, and then we can also pick up other information, such as, again, the truck number, the speed, the direction they're traveling, the material they're using, the temperature, plow up, plow down, wing up, wing down, anything like that. And again, we had some pretty significant savings as far as costs this year that I would say were directly related to using this technology. Any questions?
Okay. Go ahead, Commissioner Lather.
I think I heard on the radio that the road commissioner is laying off a bunch of people. Is that true?
Well, that is the last thing on my agenda.
Oh, okay.
My additional item.
Okay.
We did publicly announce today that we are doing seasonal layoffs, and the reason we're doing seasonal layoffs is, we went into this year with a budget that was, similar to the county, we were going to be tapping into our fund balance. And that's very typical for us because we go into the first of the year budgeting for the worst case scenario as far as winter maintenance. And on top of it, I asked my staff to budget for, support of our asset management plan for $4.5 million we need to invest. We also have our regular routine maintenance and all those things that we do. Now, what we do is we typically, we rebalance our budget in April after what I call the first part of winter, which is early 2014's winter. And then at that point, we have to sit down and we have to decide where are we at. Was the first part of winter severe? How did our budget shake out? And right now, we look pretty good as far as what we budgeted for winter. Had we been lucky, we would have had 70-degree weather and we wouldn't have spent, half of our budget, winter maintenance budget, plowing snow and putting salt down. But that's not the case. So again, what we do is when we rebalance our budget, we look to see exactly where we're at, and then we have to project when do we think winter is going to start next year. Is it going to start, or late this year, is it going to start in November like it did in 2013, or is it going to start in December? So we make some of those guesses. We also look at all the projects that we have planned, and then that's where, we have to sit down with our board and make some tough decisions. Or we have to accept the fact that we're going to use fund balance. And our goal was not to use fund balance. So, I sat down with staff back in December, and I just said, we would prefer not to use fund balance, so what options do we have not to use fund balance? And so we looked at some different options. We could cut out projects, but, we made a commitment to the residents of Grand Traverse County that we're going to make customer service and fixing our roads a priority. So we said, well, that's the last option on the table. And when it comes to millage-funded projects, there is no option. Whatever we take in millage funding, that has to go to road projects, period. So the other option we looked at was, we have a sign shop that just honestly has not run efficiently in several years. And we just said, geez, if we close our sign shop and regroup and come up with a better way to run the sign shop, we know we can save $110,000 over this next year without making any changes. We'll still replace signs that get knocked down. We'll still do maintenance on our signs. It's just that we had a sign shop that just was not managed. So that was one pretty significant savings. But the other thing I asked our staff was, is there any place that we have unproductive time? And coming from private sector business, when you need people, you have people. And when you don't need people, you lay them off. And the way I see our field staff, and our administrative staff is, we are like a construction company, okay? So when we're out fixing roads, we need people. And when we're not fixing roads, we need less people. We still need people. So a couple options that we looked at was, we went back and we looked, and the least productive times for us, there's always about a month in the spring, and there's a month in the fall. And so for us, because of the severe winter and the depth of the frost, we are absolutely not going to be able to do any road construction in the month of April. We're just not. If we're lucky, we might be able to get out in the beginning of May. I would guess it's probably going to be more like the middle of May. So we made a decision. So we went from looking at unproductive time to, does it make sense this year? And it really does. So by having a layoff, and again, we're not laying everybody off. We're laying 17 field crew people off, and these are people that would be out doing road construction. We'll still have about 50% of our crew will still be left. Their priority is fixing potholes, taking care of emergencies, trees, and things like that. If we were to get an April snowfall, if we were to get a horrible windstorm where we had a lot of trees down, then we always have the option of calling people back. This isn't a permanent layoff, it's a seasonal layoff. And what we've told our folks at the Road Commission is, you know, we have not identified, or we have not notified the specific people. We'll be doing that tomorrow. But we met with all of our staff and we said there will be a seasonal layoff for sure this spring and potentially in October of this year. And by doing those seasonal layoffs, we can save between $100,000 and $150,000. Again, so now we're talking about reducing our, what I would call, you know, it's a budget deficit on paper, but we're reducing that nearly 50%. And now, you know, now with this winter, this emergency winter overage fund, you know, that potentially can shore up the other half of our budget. And again, we'll be working through those details with our board, you know, at our April meeting. But so that's where we're at. And again, you know, the decisions we make are in the best interest of the residents of Grand Traverse County.
Okay. Does that help you, Dr. Dan?
Yeah.
All right, okay.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Jim? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Commissioner Wheeler.
Jim, two things. Yeah, well, you and I already discussed the frost law thing, so we can't, there's no sense in beating that up anymore. Last night at Long Lake Township, a citizen asked about new signage that supposedly was going to be installed at East Long Lake in Secor. Some bigger signs or something the township said they had requested. You know, just maybe if you can, I'm sure that Karen will be following up with you too. I just thought I would mention it. You know, it's an intersection that, despite the fact that you can see all four directions a long ways, they still have some pretty nasty accidents there, so.
Yeah, I actually talked to our traffic services supervisor here, I can't remember if it was this week or last week, but that is the plan, to go out and install larger signs. That just makes sense, and that's really a pretty minimal cost to do that for us. When we start adding rumble strips and beacons, that, you know, the beacons are pretty expensive, but again, you know, larger signs, I think that makes sense, and hopefully it'll help, and if it doesn't, then we'll work with the township to do something else. But I'm glad you mentioned the seasonal weight restrictions, because, you know, I think everybody here should understand that this is probably the latest. I'll tell you this is the latest in my entire career that I've ever seen seasonal weight restrictions go on for starting. We'll probably go on, I'm thinking, between the 18th and the 20th of next week, probably around the 20th, but potentially on the 18th, and I'm waiting for our engineering department to tell me for sure which day. But the real bad news is those, because of the depth of the frost, and we've gone out and we've looked around the county, we have between 8 and 12 feet of frost. That is very unusual, you know, and again, for a lot of people, they would say that they've never seen that in their life. So, and that's just a result of having, I think, almost a record number of below freezing days this year, as well as it's got to be close to a record of below 0 days this year. But so because of that, we're going to see frost laws stay on longer than much later into the year.
It's a record late if they're going on. I'll bet it's going to be a record late when they come off.
Yeah, it's a late start again, so we're talking about, you know, the 18th or 20th of March. Normally they go on anywhere between January and February sometime. They normally go off normally in March. I would say we will not see them go off in April. With any luck, they'll go off at the beginning of May. Potentially, it could be maybe the first week of May. So, so we will be. We've notified trucking companies. We've notified logging companies. We've really tried to be proactive. And again, if you talk to anybody, ask them to go look at our website, because we're trying to work with them.
Well, last week's email still said that they hadn't established a date yet. So I'm hoping that we'll be getting one soon that says it'll be on the 18th or the 20th.
Yeah, they'll know by the end of this week.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Anyone else?
They call that permafrost in Canada.
12 feet or
Pretty much.
All right, thank you, Jim.
All right, thank you very much.
I have a term for it too, but it isn't permanent for us.
Mr. Chairman, somebody mentioned to me that they saw a pothole that was so large that people were water skiing on it.
That would be on 7th Street.
It's the bay.
Let me tell you. I know right where it is.
I don't believe there's been enough real liquid water for anybody to water ski on anything. It's all froze pretty solid. Nice ski.
All right, that concludes the road commission report. We will move on to the administrator's report. We have the first item, which is the appointment of the deputy medical examiner. Dave?
Yes, it came to my attention that Dr. Houghton was unable to perform his duties for a while, and he needed to be replaced, and normally a deputy medical examiner would do that. We have not appointed a deputy medical examiner, and we kind of had a pressing need, so I sent a letter making that appointment, and I need the board to do that because under the statute, the board makes the appointments for deputy medical examiners.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to appoint a deputy medical examiner
That is-
as per the recommendation by the commissioner, or by the administrator.
And that would be, all right, they'd be moved by Commissioner Wheelock, seconded by Commissioner Runny, to appoint Dr. Kyle Carr, M.D., as the deputy medical examiner for Grand Traverse County, effective March 6th, so you want immediate ratification on this?
That's correct.
All right, okay. Is a motion maker and second fine with the immediate approval?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner, now we have discussion. Commissioner Lemko.
What was the qualifications and how did we go about selecting this? I mean, is this a recommendation from Wendy or from Dr. Houghton, or how did this?
From Wendy. And Wendy,
Dr. Houghton did approve the appointment as well. He has to approve it under the statute,
Okay.
and then you have to agree to that. And he works in the pathology, histology department at Munson and was a former medical examiner in another county.
Perfect.
Okay.
Cool.
Any other questions from the commissioners on that item?
That was my question, too.
All right.
What are his qualifications?
All right, okay. So we have that, we have a motion on the floor. Let's do, it has to take immediate effect, so let's do a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Max Bauer,
Yes.
Lemkool,
Yes.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Thomas, Rennie,
Yes.
Inman.
Yes, motion passes. Second item is the information that was requested upon by Commissioner Wheelock at our previous meeting in his discussion regarding the jail population situation, and maybe the board should look into the jail site selection process. Dave, you got something to report back on that?
well, I've given you a 2-page or so memo
Okay.
that, and attached some of the information from the Blue Ribbon Commission or committee that took place a few years back. It's, right now we have a 168-bed facility. We are boarding out inmates daily to other counties. It's been going up and down, but more up than down lately.
How many are we boarding out, average? Do you have that number?
I think today the number's in the,
All right, okay.
Yeah.
Let the record know it's, they responded as 11.
yes.
Okay.
The committee, the Blue Ribbon Committee, apparently spent a long time, and I didn't review all the details of this, but I understand it took quite a while. They reviewed the need for a facility, and they followed NIC guidelines getting there. They came up with a 250-bed jail was needed, and that was at that time. And usually you would build them for the future. You don't build it for what you need today. You build it for what you're going to need for the next 20 years and make sure you have enough room to expand into it. And you certainly the way you want to do it these days is to set it up so that if you have to expand after 20 years, you have a place to do that. You want to put it on a site that will allow that. Or if you're going to go up, you want to make sure that the foundation that you put in can support another, layer. So, at any rate, it's been 10 years since that recommendation, and roughly. And I think in my letter, I suggest that we should contact NIC, and I spoke with Captain Hall this afternoon, regarding the PONY program, the Planning of New Institutions program put
Oh,
on
yeah.
by the National Institute of Corrections.
I've seen that.
It's out in Colorado, I believe, and the board chair, the county administrator, the sheriff, and the jail administrator, anybody else have to be on that list? And I guess anybody else who would be smart, I would suggest that you'd want somebody who was going to be appointed a transition person for the jail, should go to that and be a part of the management team from day one on the project, because transitioning from an old jail to a new jail takes a lot of planning inside the facility by the people who run the facility and work in it every day. And I would suggest that you get one more person involved on the staff level to do that. NIC usually pays for a number of things. It's usually not a lot of cost to the counties. It's a federal program that actually does something very useful for us at the local level. And I think we should take advantage of that if we're serious about doing this. We also need to consider that it's going to cost a lot of money. This facility will cost probably another $1.6 million in operating costs per year. If you build it, it's going to be a larger facility, so it's going to take more utilities, it's going to take more of just about everything. It's going to take more food for the inmates. It's going to take, all of the operating expenses will go up. You're going to have a debt service on the jail. You're going to be paying for, if you're going to build a $250 to $30 million jail, you can expect to pay $100,000 a bed, which means that you're talking in the $25, $30 million range. You might be able to do it cheaper than that, depending on what you want to do with it. So there's a lot of things to consider in the design process on how you're going to do it, how you're going to staff it. We know that our staffing is very intensive because of the way the jail's laid out. New jails, you have these big pods with 56 beds in it, and another one over here, and there's, a couple of guys in a booth that can watch 112 people, inmates, all at once. And, we've got a rover that might come in and out, or you might have one sitting right inside the pods, as they're called. So you can really save a lot of money on the staffing, and every officer, for a 20-year period, is about $1 million. Every single correction officer that you can reduce out of that staff saves $1 million. Everyone you got to add, consequently, is another $1 million. Doing a rough calculation on it, and I don't want anybody to hold me to it, we might be able to save 8 to 10 staff in a new facility, depending on how you want to do it. If you go with direct supervision, maybe not so many. But if you go indirect like we're doing now, you might be able to save that many. So that gets your number down to about $1.6 million in new annual operating costs. So that's got to be dealt with. You have to build it into the budget, and if you're serious about it, you should probably start building it into your budget now. The day you make the decision you want to get into this project and make it happen is the day you need to start saying, we're going to focus on starting to set aside available funds into a capital improvements fund for the jail. That will get you started with, after you go to the PONY program, they're going to tell you how to organize your committee for your site selection, which I think you have a pretty good idea for it right now. It's got to have a cross-section of the citizenry to make the decision to do the search, but you're going to need a consultant to help you, to look at all the available sites in the county, get input from the public, and then make your selection of what, let that citizens committee make the selection of the site, or what they think is best, and then make a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners so they can approve it. That's really the way to go. And if you shortcut that process, you run the danger of having to go back to start because you didn't follow process properly. So take my word for it. You got to do the process properly. And that is a good way to do it. And it seems to get the most support from the public when you embark on that strategy. So is there anything else that I put in here that I need to go over?
I just want to footnote that, and then I'll call on Commissioner Wheelock. the July National Association of Counties Conference, they invited the head of the National Institution of Corrections, and this guy was in charge of the whole program, and he came in and did about a 45-minute presentation on how it works, what they do, how it's structured, how it's organized, and all the jails that they have assisted with in this process throughout the United States. And then they had a panel of counties represented that worked with them on the placement, selection, and the whole process moving forward with the building of a new jail. And they basically indicated from the day one you want to make a decision on moving forward to the site selection, to the cost estimates, to the construction and the opening the doors, you're looking at 5 years, minimum 5 years. That's their that's their average. I just want to let you know that they come highly regarded around the United States. I know previously, I think Commissioner Wheelock and the previous administrator went to a session, but it's probably changed since then or maybe modified somewhat. But if we're going to do this, I want to do it right, and I think that they come with some really strong national credentials that I would highly recommend if we're serious about looking at a future site for our jail and maybe even making a decision to move forward at some point in time, that we start with this organization. And I agree with Dave. That was a good call on your part to make contact with them with your years of experience as a county administrator. That would be the process that we would really need to move forward, and if the board wants to do this. So, Commissioner Wheelock.
I guess just for a little bit of history, in 2003, 2004, a Blue Ribbon Jail Committee was appointed in Grand Traverse County. We spent basically 13 months meeting at least twice a month, or twice a month, to review not only what our jail needs were, but we spent a great deal of time talking about alternatives. We brought in two different experts. Dennis Liebert came from the National Institute of Corrections from Colorado. He lives in Boulder, just outside of Longmont. And Dennis came here and he talked about what our jail is and told us how bad our jail was. You know, he didn't pull any straws. That our jail was absolutely horrible. We've done some things to help that, but there's just so many things in the infrastructure that we can't fix. Talked a lot about what our jail needs were for the community. We also brought in another expert, a gentleman by the name of David Bennett, who was a criminologist, and David told us who was in our jail, what types of people were in our jail, what they were in our jail for. This might surprise some of you, but David's a lot more liberal than I am. He told us that a lot of the people that we were housing in the jail shouldn't be in jail. We should be doing something different with them, whether it be alternative sentencings or, you know, a number of different things. So we spent a great deal of time reviewing our community corrections program and expanding that. You know, last week at our community corrections program, meeting, the sheriff specifically asked the Community Corrections Board, do you foresee an ability to expand these alternative sentencings? Because without an additional expansion of community corrections, we're still going to have to house more people. If they foresee an expansion of community corrections services available to the community, then maybe we can delay this construction of the jail longer. But I think it was pretty overwhelmingly thought that we are pretty much maxed out with what community corrections is available to us. You know, not only because of the facilities that are available for alternatives, but also because of the types of prisoners that are in our jail that we want to stay in jail. I've said repeatedly, jail population is a matter of philosophy. The philosophy of our community is that if you commit a crime here, your ass goes to jail. The philosophy of the judges is if the sheriff arrests them, the prosecutor charges them, his job is to send them to jail. You know, the question becomes, do we send them to jail and
leave them there for 30 days and then put them into a mandatory 6 to 9 month drug and alcohol program? Or do we let them sit in jail for 90 days and turn them back out on the you know, but any way around it, there absolutely has to be a punitive portion. We had a great cross-section of the community on the Blue Ribbon Jail Committee. I'd like to reach out to some of those people and see if they're interested in serving us again. I seen a note that David made that the Brownfield redevelopment program is usually a pretty good cross-section of your community. You know, we can look at that too. The one thing that we have going for us is so much of the history piece is already done. We've already established that we need 250 to 300 beds, hands down. That's what we have to have. If we build anything smaller than that, we're kidding ourselves. We already have some preliminary designs for podule type jails, you know, the indirect supervision thing. We had some staff that had the opportunity to attend the PONY program in Longmont. We looked at both indirect supervision and direct supervision jails. In a direct supervision jail, you actually put a corrections officer right in the room with, you know, 50 people.
Waking up.
The indirect observation is more like you see if you've visited the Leelanau County Jail, where they have a person that sits in the center and can look into multiple areas to see where the prisoners are. We're fortunate in that we've already done a lot of that work, so we've already got some ideas about what size we need to have and how much physical space it takes to make that happen. And we've pretty much established we don't have room on this campus for it. So then becomes the idea the other way. But I guess, you know, to start with, you know, I would like to make a motion that we move forward with the appointment of a siting committee. If we, David, you believe we should do the PONY thing before do the siting committee, or?
Yeah. You got to fly out and go through that program.
Yeah, I think we should, and I believe there's one in August, is what Captain Hall told me this morning, or this afternoon. And I think getting off on the right foot is the right thing to do. Plus, we'll have a lot more information come August as we go into the budget process. We'll be able to establish whether we can start putting aside money for this. Because I really think if you're ready to talk with a site selection committee, you really need to appropriate at least $25,000 to $30,000 for a consultant to come in and work with them to identify a site, go through the process of, how big, how much room do we need, does it have to have access to a main road? Yes. Does it have to, you got to establish this criteria for the site, and everybody has to agree on that criteria before you even get started. So it really helps to have a facilitator, usually an architect or an engineering firm that knows a little bit about this stuff.
So, the question in my mind was simply because we've done the PONY thing before, whether we felt it would be necessary to do it again, or because of the fact that it has been 10 years, have conditions changed enough for us to justify doing that again before we do the site selection?
I could probably answer that question.
Okay.
The maturity of the program in the last 10 years has escalated to the point where there's been more counties that have been involved in jail expansions around the United States that have gone through this program, that when they did the presentation, there were a lot of things that they had learned and had slightly did differently, or in terms of the experiences of the counties that have done jail expansions with them over the last 10 years, I think you're going to find a lot of value in their stories and in the presentation they would make, because if you go there and you do the presentation with them and the structure and how you want to go process this thing, they're going to give you a list of counties that have gone through this process in the last 10 years. And I think what we need to do is you need to come back and call them and say, how did it go? And if you had to do anything differently, what would you have changed? And did it go smoothly with the community process and the funding process, and how did you finance it? I think I think if you're going to commit some time to fly out there and do it, I think you're going to gain a lot on the front end and have resources to call before you start the siting process. I think I think we act smartly and get our people back out to this show, or, you know, this program.
So what
Commissioner
was, is there a motion?
Well, I was just, we were having a
He was
discussion.
fumbling with the
I will make a motion that we proceed with registering a team to attend the National Institute of Corrections facility in Longmont, Colorado.
I'll second it.
All right, moved by Commissioner Wheelock, seconded by Commissioner Lathrop, to move forward with the county administrator's recommendation to attend the National Institute of Corrections program in, is it Boulder, Colorado? Or
Yeah, it's in Longmont.
Long Mountain,
Yeah,
Colorado?
Long Mountain.
Okay. All right. And
Same
that the county administrators, and would you also be fine with the county minister authorizing the individuals that would be attending that meeting? All right. Second, agree with that? Okay. All right. So we have motion on the floor, discussion. Commissioner Lemkool.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to recognize the fact that our strategic goal number 3E, monitor jail inmate population needs and begin identifying options for increasing available space. That's in our strategic plan. So this fits in the strategic plan. My question is when we start doing these things, and we've done this a couple of times, that we have an issue that's brought before us, but we don't really rank it as to where it is in its priority list with the whole county government as a whole. And so, you know, I don't disagree with what you're going to do here. I would probably vote for it, but I also would like to see us start to look at, when we start looking at this, you know, one of the things we talked about is, you know, a capital budget. We really haven't really done a good job on identifying that capital budget. We haven't looked at a technology plan. You know, some of these things are probably higher on our priority, or should they be higher on our priority than this? That's the discussion I think we should have when we start doing these things, or we come back and start looking at our strategic plan and maybe re-identify the focus as to giving Dave his, what he should be doing, what he should be working on. Because when we start doing this, we're increasing his workload. And we've already identified that he's overloaded. And when you do this, and you don't have that discussion on the other side, then you're only going to create a problem for all these other things that we're not going to be able to do. And so I encourage us to probably go forward with this, but also I want to encourage you to have the discussion as to whether or not you're going to give him better staff so that he can be able to manage more of these processes than what we're doing. Look at our budget as to how we got it set up to determine whether or not, what is our highest priority, what's the lowest priority, and then be able to give him some guidance as to where we ought to be working.
All right. Okay, Commissioner Wheelock, and then Commissioner Rennie.
I guess the comment that I make, if you look at our strategic plan, the jail capacity is very high in our strategic plan.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at our capital improvement plan, we had to take care of the historic courthouse, we had to take care of the health department, and then we had to take care of the jail. We have taken care of the other two. The next major item in our capital improvement plan, our 5-year capital improvement plan, is to evaluate the jail. We are there, folks.
Okay.
It is time to
I
move
don't
forward
disagree.
with the jail.
Okay, Commissioner Rennie.
I kind of agree with Commissioner Inman on this. It's been 10 years. If we're going to spend $25, $30 million, I think we should have up to the minute
Right.
input as to where we should go. How you're going to staff it, what method you're going to use, all that should be handled first, I believe. I say send them out there.
Okay, I do too. Commissioner Lathrop.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. I think we need to move on it now because, like you said, we're not going to open the doors of it for 5 years, and we're already overcrowded. So, now, David, I want to ask you a question. You said it was like 1.6 million a year. You projected it would cost us extra for this jail.
Yeah, I mean, this is rough figures, but, you know, you're going to have to come up with new money of $1.6 million in your operating budget annually to fund this new facility.
So my question is, does that include the interest cost to the cost of borrowing the money, 1.6 million?
Yeah.
No, that's
Yeah,
I know. I'm not
It would be the debt on the building, it would be the additional operating cost with the offset of some staffing.
Yeah.
So, you know, net, it'd be about $1.6 million.
Does the county own any land where we could put a jail on it?
We own quite a bit of land.
But you
But there
also
are
have
going to
to-
be issues.
But you have a
There are going
letter
to be several
here.
issues to work through.
Yeah, you got
One
a letter
is
from the courts.
the proximity to the courthouse.
Yeah,
You know, and
So-
moving prisoners, moving inmates from an off-site location to the courthouse every day with a historic courthouse that doesn't have lockup facilities is going to be an issue. We're going to have to staff that, and we're going to have to do some of those things. If we're going to leave it where it is, then we got to take all of our 168 plus that are in the building now and move them to a new location for 2 years while we raise this, and it'll be a complete nightmare.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things to think about, plus the fact that the best locations, there's not a whole lot of locations inside the city limits to do this. The best locations are outside the city limits, maybe not very far outside the city limits. But then the question comes up about the sheriff's office. You know, do you build a sheriff's office along with the jail, or do you leave it just a jail? And the sheriff will say, I think I ought to be with the jail. And so that's going to be an issue. And all that has to be discussed and worked through with the board, and everybody's got to come to a conclusion about what's right and the way we want to do it.
But he's not in the jail now.
Well, right now, it's separate. Everything's separate.
Well,
Commissioner Max Bauer.
Yeah, that really was my question. I mean, is this really the first step? Sending Dave out to Colorado, is that really the first step? Shouldn't we sit down and decide first with the prosecutor, with the judges, with the sheriff? Shouldn't we start there first and come to some kind of consensus as to what our best options may be before we send them out to Colorado? This is new to me, please
I think I can
understand. I
answer
don't
the
build a
question.
jail every day.
I think the benefit of sending them out gives you the insight of all the components that you have to be aware of and go through in order to site, build, and get a jail operational. I think you need that information prior to sitting down with your stakeholders and the Board of Commissioners and elected officials, so they know, so they can come back and report what was said and how and what was said. And then that gives us a chance, number two, to contact the counties over the last 10 years, if we want to go back that far, even the last 5 years, that have worked with them on jail construction. But I think also when you fly out there, they're also going to be, you're going to have a discussion with them of your current jail situation and where it's currently sited. And we do have one option out there that they have left us with, other than citing a new one, and that's taking the parking lot out and creating another pod or two on the side of the current jail. But that just makes staffing more complex than everything else.
Well,
So I think my feeling is that they should get out there and get the basics in. Then we can come back and discuss what do we want to do.
And the other thing that comes to mind is I don't want us as a county to necessarily say, okay, we're going to use our property at Lafreniere, or we're going to buy Hoke Road for a new jail site. Just because that's easiest. I understand that there would be extreme difficulty, tearing out the jail we have and putting a new one where it sits. I understand that would be a very, very difficult process. But if that's the best answer over the long haul, I want us to do that. The other question I have is, I don't know too much about this National Institute of Corrections. Would it be more beneficial to have them come here and talk to everybody versus everybody go there?
We could check on that, but my understanding is that they have the facilities and the instructors, and they have training modules. They have all their computers. They have this presentation built into, like, with screens on the walls, and all their technology and everything, and examples of what other people have done with jails over the last 10 years and their expansion, how they did it. So to transport all that over and come and do a presentation, where I think we're better off having us just attend one of their normal sessions where we're going to get all that there, plus interact with the other people that are going to be there in the same spot that we're in, along with, who's done this in the last 5 years and who have you worked with, and we can call. So the economics of the trip is just flight tickets and some hotel rooms for, I don't know what it is, 3-4 days.
I don't even know what they pay for, but
I think
they pay
that's
for quite a
fine,
bit of it.
but
And they pay part of that, I think. Yeah, you get a grant from them to come out and do that thing, but. Commissioner Rennie, I think. and then-
I would agree with Commissioner Inman on that. This is the place to start, absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt we have to know what we want to do before you start planning locally. So I think we should get on this and get you out there.
Yeah, I think it's a team-building exercise as well as a training for what you have to expect and what you have to accomplish, giving you an idea of the step-by-step of getting this whole thing done from the inception to getting all the thousands of details taken care of. Not only in how you're going to, whether you're going to have a sheriff's office with the jail and law enforcement there too, or not, or whether you're going to have community corrections in it, adult probation, all those issues have got to be sorted through, whether any of those things makes any sense to put by the jail. And then you've got, the internal things when you design a jail. I mean, are you going to deliver GED classes in the pods, or are you going to deliver them in a classroom outside of the pods? Are you going to make it so that the inmates never leave their pods, which is the safest way to do it? Or you're going to have them going down a hallway, and, there are safe ways to do that too, but you get classrooms, and there's just 1,000 decisions that need to be made, and they kind of prep us for that and create a team to tackle each one of those problems as a team.
Okay, we're going to have Commissioner Wheelock, and then Lemko, and then Lathrop.
I guess the one thing, Chris, getting back to your question, I guess I'm operating under the assumption that we've pretty well heard from the judges, from the sheriff, from the jail administrator, and from most of the people locally that we need a new jail. So we've already got that piece done. Now we need to know about how to move forward with that. When they had opportunity to do this before, you ask about having them brought here. When you go to the National Institute of Corrections, or at least when I went before, we had everything from architects, that's all they do is travel around the country building jails, to finance people that tell you how you can bond it, how you can pay for it, and all of that. People that talk about how different ways to administer this thing, how to do the PR thing to sell it to the public. We had opportunity to tour, I believe it's Denton, is it Denton County, Bob? Douglas County, Colorado.
I'm familiar with it.
Whereas, they have
Love
just
it.
a huge facility, and they do both indirect and direct supervision in that facility. You get to see the pros and the cons of both. You get to talk to the corrections officers that work in that. Remember that 80% of your cost of operating this jail over the next 30 years is the personnel. So make sure that these people are happy with how it's working. We got to see the different kinds of security issues. The idea that instead of having to go in here with a key and unlock a door or have somebody buzz the door, all of the doors are rotating and they move a quarter of a turn at a time. You get in there and you move a quarter of a turn. You hope it moves the next quarter of a turn so you can get out the other side. But there's security issues. The other thing is you get to see the opportunity of where they've used both video arraignments, which we are fortunate that our judges have bought into that, and we're doing a lot of video arraignments, but they also have miniature courtrooms right in the facility where the judge can actually sit there on Monday morning and do arraignments instead of having to transport those prisoners to across town or whatever the thing is to the court. There's a lot of different things that can be done, and you get to hear from people that have done it a lot of different ways. But you also hear from not only what our problems are, you hear from other county representatives. I remember when we were there before, there was a county, I believe Tennessee, and they contended they had a Wyatt Earp jail. They had 6 cells with steel bar doors and big key to open each individual door, and he was pretty proud of the fact that you could hear the door clang clear across the block, but, they have, we're not quite that far back in the way, but yet we still have a lot of needs, and it's interesting to get those different perspectives. But I think the most important piece is what you get is the experience of having the opportunity to hear from experts. That's what they do 365 days a year, school throughout the country and build jails.
I appreciate your explanation,
All right,
Commissioner Wheelock.
Commissioner
Thank you.
Lemkool and then Commissioner Lathrop.
Yeah, I would just like to point out that 10 years ago when we did this blue ribbon study, that it really pushed us off for another 10 years before we had to do something. Because we did use a lot of the information that came out of that report. There is a lot of jail diverted programs that we didn't have before then. So we're a lot more efficient, but we can't kick the can down any further. But my other comment is how much more are we going to pile on our administrator to be able to get the work done for our board? And I think we need to answer that question along with this question.
Okay, all right. Commissioner Lathrop.
When is this a national?
August.
In August?
Yeah, so we have to book now.
And we book now?
We need to book now.
Yeah, because
It'll be just Dave going down? Who else will go?
He's going to the motion is to have the administrator make the selection who needs to go down there, but it probably will be the sheriff, the jail administrator, the deputy administrator of the jail, and if they have someone else to go. And probably one or two commissioners.
Yeah, even if I have to pay my own way, I'd like to go.
I would like to go, too.
Yeah, we had a couple commissioners go last time. And they have a grant process where they pay for a part or some of the expenses. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Commissioner Rennie.
Mr. Bendo, are you overworked? I keep hearing this. What's going on?
Well, I
You need
said-
extra help
I
to
said
do
to one of
this
my
thing.
staff people today, I said, I got 10 things going on at once. It's a perfect day.
He told me a long time ago he likes that.
Yeah, well, but
still,
there's a certain level.
Well, the Boardman Dams is, quite a big project that you don't see or hear much about. There's a lot of work involved in it. And, a jail is a lot of work. I know that. I've already gone through one, and it's a lot of work. And, you already know, I don't have a deputy. It's really hard to find somebody to do this work. So you cut wherever you have to.
Commissioner Rennie.
Have you heard that old thing, if you want something done, give it to a busy person?
Well,
So
My
that's
father-in-law
what's
told me
happening
that
to
one.
me.
That's pretty much how it works, isn't it?
I was wondering what happened to me. Okay, we
you
have
didn't get busy, so now you can't do as much.
any other discussion on the motion? We have a motion on the floor. Now, does this just want to go to the end of the month? Or do
Yeah,
we
that's
just?
fine. It doesn't need
All
immediate
right,
ratification.
okay, we have a motion.
Maybe between now and the board meeting,
Dave
we
can
can see
recommend.
a draft, we can find out whether or not they even have openings for it in August, or whether they're already full, what the cost would be, what portion of it the Institute of Corrections will pay, what the cost to Grand Traverse County would be, and that would be based on, 6 people going or 8 people going or whatever. We can put together some information from that.
So if you can get that together at our board meeting, that would be great. We can just bring that up with this item. So we have a motion on the floor to accept the county administrator's recommendation to attend the Institute of Corrections program for the placement of new jails or the rebuilding or remodeling of jails out in Colorado, and that he will come back and give us a recommendation on who will attend and what the grant process would be if we can get reimbursed back.
Captain Hall may even delay his retirement if we move forward with this finally.
Okay. All right.
Not putting any pressure on
I
you, Bob.
doubt it.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Passes unanimously. A no here is a yes vote. I didn't hear anything from you, Commissioner Lemko, so that's a
I
yes.
had yes.
Oh, you had yes,
Oh, yeah.
okay. All right, that concludes that item. Sheriff?
Discussion.
All right. Okay, that concludes administration, is that correct?
That's correct.
We will now move on to unfinished business. We have none. We have 2 items under new business, and the first item is the March 25th Audit, Claims, and Accounts Committee.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to authorize that Chairman Limcool sit on the Claims and Audit Committee on March 25th to fill the absence.
Second?
Second, okay. Since,
Who seconded?
Lathrop.
okay, since this occurs before our board meeting, we'll do an immediate action. Is that fine with the motion maker and second? Okay, any further discussion? Okay, that's on the 25th at 10 a.m. with Commissioner Thomas. Roll call vote, please.
Lemko,
Yep.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Thomas,
Sure.
Rennie,
Yes.
Max Bauer.
Yes.
Inman.
Yes. All right, thank you, Commissioner Lemko. The other item under B is the Claims and Accounts Committee met and discussed the current per diem situation, which we agree needs clarification and greater detail in terms of how it's laid out in our policy, what qualifies and what doesn't qualify for a per diem. And we don't want to create any more hardship on this thing. So, and I want to make it clear to the folks that were involved in this thing, you know, there was a lot of human error on all parts on this thing, and it shouldn't ever, you know, gotten to the extent it did. And those were approved expenditures that went through the process. So we would like to hopefully have and this is our recommendation to you, unless you change it or want to do something different. Our recommendation is to have the current Audit Claims Committee, Commissioner Thomas, Max Bauer, and myself, meet with either Prosecutor Bob Cooney or Deputy Civil Counsel Chris Forsythe to come up with a better clarity of per diem qualification, get it reprinted because the per diem policy is very old. It's got to be at least 12 to 15 years old, for gosh sakes. It's in the 80s, I think, that we passed that thing. And come back with a better clarification for us and future commissioners. So we wanted to come back and make that recommendation to you and see if you agree with our recommendation so we can work with staff on coming back with a recommendation. Commissioner
It
Thomas.
could be somebody else if they want to sit on a committee.
Could be.
Doesn't have to be the three of us.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that the county board chairman, the chairman of Ways and Means, and the chairman of Resource Management and Administration Committee comprise that committee.
So the 3 chairs.
The 3 chairs, the Ways and Means Committee that approves the bills,
Okay.
the county board chairman, and the Administration Committee chairman
Pardon me.
that sets policy.
Who's that going to be?
So
It'd be Herb, myself, and Larry.
Okay. I think it's important we get some new folks on that committee. This thing has been a joke. And for it to come out like it did is not only embarrassing to this board, it's embarrassing to our employees. And I can tell you, my feedback has been a lot of discontent and misunderstanding in the general public. So I think it's time is here finally to redo this thing. People have been asking for this for over a year.
okay. I agree. I mean, we've been crossing them off and communicating for 20 years since we've had this policy with commissioners, and I think it just needs to get fixed. It really does. And there shouldn't be any fault on anyone else at this board or past members.
I made a motion. Do we have a second?
Okay, it's motion by Wheelock, seconded by Rennie, to have Commissioner Lemkool, myself, and Commissioner Wheelock be an official ad hoc committee of the board, and to work with Civil Counsel or Bob Cooney on redefining our per diem policy. And this will just go to the end of the month, that's fine. So, any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Passes. Thank you. Second, public comment. Does any member of the public wish to speak at this time? Seeing none, we will close second public comment. We will move on to Commissioner Committee reports. Anyone have anything to report at this time? Commissioner Lathrop.
I went to the Peninsula Township meeting last night, Tuesday night, and they're just starting to wrestle with rewriting their stormwater ordinance. Just wanted to let you know that. And they may be coming to Mr. Cooney to ask some advice.
Okay.
So that's it.
All right, anyone else? Commissioner Wheelock and Commissioner Lemkool.
Last night at Long Lake Township's meeting, they granted a conditional approval to hold a half marathon in Long Lake this summer. They're pretty excited about it. There's a group of individuals that are kind of pushing to have this done, and I don't know exactly what the date is, but it should be what a nice run for somebody that wants to run. We have some very picturesque areas in Long Lake Town. Probably not. The other thing, they did announce that they have finalized the purchase of, I believe, an 11-acre site adjacent to Crescent Shores Road, which they're hoping to develop into some off-road parking for anyone that's used to using the boat launch on Long Lake. We have 2 boat launches, one on North Long Lake Road, which requires that every vehicle back across 2 lanes of traffic to get into the water. And the other one is at the end of a roadway, public roadway that dead ends into the lake. And there is minimal parking at best along the shoulders of that road, and everyone's tried to maintain some of it, but it's not good. And when, if you put in at Crescent Shores, and you have to go up the road 3/4 of a mile to find a place to park and then walk back down to your boat. And then when it's time to take your boat out, you got to try to come in along the side of the dock and walk up the beach and back up the road a half, 3/4 of a mile to get to your car and then come down and, it's just not good. So they have had the opportunity to purchase some property adjacent to Crescent Shores Road, and we'll be developing a parking lot there.
Okay, anyone else? Commissioner Lemkool.
Yeah, I would like to ask the sheriff to come forward and talk about the awards that he presented at 2 o'clock this afternoon, and his departments, the employee of the year and all that, if you could, if that's all right with the board.
Sure.
Or Dave's. I was going to give him mine.
Thank you for the script. Yes, this afternoon at 2 o'clock here in the Commission Chambers, we held annual awards for our officers. We have changed this the last 3 years where we invite people to come in. Majority of those people are from our office. And we present an Officer of the Year for the Law Enforcement Division award, and we also present a Corrections Officer of the Year award. The Sheriff's Office has been doing this for, I think this is the 29th year. This year, and also at the ceremony, if you will, we recognize officers who have, throughout the year, earned life-saving awards or distinguished service awards by their actions and things that they have done. We also recognize citizens who have, by their actions during the past year, made a life-saving award, or in this case, this year, a Citizens Award of Valor. So during the ceremony today, we had Deputy Mike Hornacek and Deputy Derek Morton receive the Sheriff's Office Award of Merit after they were nominated by their supervisor, and their actions were reviewed by the Honors and Awards Board. They received an Award of Merit for spending several hours in a cedar swamp down near Fife Lake trying to find a hunter who was lost. He went into the woods early in the morning, and by 7 p.m. he wasn't out. So they spent several hours traipsing through the woods. I'm told it took them almost 2 hours to get out of the woods once he was located. Also assisting was a neighbor of the lost hunter, Mr. Chatham Brown. He received an award, the Citizens Award of Valor, for going with those officers because he knew the area quite well, and he knew a hunting spot. The officers had checked the area where they, Mr. Taylor was lost in his normal hunting area, but was not there. So Mr. Brown previously had had a conversation with Mr. Taylor, who was missing, and thought he knew where he was, and we thanked him with the Citizens Award of Valor. We gave life-saving awards to Deputy Weber and 2 for Deputy Paul Postal, and a Distinguished Service Award for Sergeant Greg McManamy. I believe it was April, I'm going to say the 7th, a year ago, where our officers were ambushed, if you will, outside of a residence in Braun, and Sergeant McManamy, after seeing the shots fired, the muzzle blast coming out of the residence, returned fire immediately, causing the subject who was shooting at the good guys, if you will, to retreat back into his house. And he had a round in the chamber and 11 rounds in his assault rifle when he peacefully surrendered. So he was awarded a Distinguished Service Award for those actions. The Corrections Officer of the Year, Deputy Scott Martin. He's a 5-year officer in the Corrections Department. He was nominated, as was the Law Enforcement Officer of the Year, by the supervisors. We asked the supervisors to point out people who they think are deserving of the Officer of the Year award. Deputy Martin was the nominee and selected for the Corrections Officer of the Year, and the Law Enforcement Officer of the Year was Detective Mike Matucci, and he was hired full-time, I believe it was in September of 2005, so he's about a 9-year veteran of the Sheriff's Office. I want to thank Commissioner Lemkool, Mr. Benda, for showing up. We appreciate your support, excuse me, and Commissioner Whining. He was sitting over by the cookies. But we appreciate your support in coming to that. It's our way of saying thanks to those officers who have earned those awards, and by their contributions and hard work at the Sheriff's Office. So,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I have 2 other items. One is that I received a letter dated February 27th of 14. We are pleased to notify you that your comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year 2012 qualifies as Certified Achievement for Excellence for Financial Reporting. I think this is the 8th or 9th year that we have received this. So congratulations to Dean Bott and his staff, and for our administrator for all the work that they're doing in making sure that we are fiscally responsible and we have quality people and quality reporting for our finances. Now, this is a huge honor, and I hope that we can continue doing this, and that we continue to be able to get the recognition for Dean and his staff for doing what they're doing. The other comment I'd like to make is that we received a notice that Up North Media Center is changing its channels. So on March 25th, those that are watching us, you're going to have to change your channel to a different channel. There'll be 191 and 189. So the 99 and 97 that you're currently watching, or 992, will not be available. They will switch those automatically on the 25th. And so your government channels will be channels 189 and 191. So if anybody would like to know more information about that, Up North Media will have that information. I understand there is no test pattern on this. It's going to be done on the 25th, and that's it.
25th of what?
March.
March,
Okay?
Dave, can we get that on our website and get a press release out?
Yes,
Is it out there already?
it might be out there already, yeah.
Okay.
We had multiple emails to that effect, too.
Okay, all right. Anyone else have a commissioner report? Seeing none, we'll move on to notices and announcements. Anything new on that?
So, Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
I'd like to have two things on the agenda for next week, if we could. One is the commissioner compensation.
Yes,
We asked that it would be on when all commissioners are here.
Yeah, we're planning on that in Ways and
Yeah,
Means.
it's 10A on the agenda, draft agenda that I have right here.
Ways and Means.
Okay. And the other one is
I wasn't
I'd like to
paying
have a
attention. I
discussion on the pavilions and the old health department building.
That's also on is item number 9A1.
Okay. Well, we haven't seen the agenda, so that's
I know,
fine.
I just have the draft, Chris left it on my desk tonight, and I'll
Okay.
approve it tomorrow morning.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Bonnie, I haven't missed the second public comment. The prosecutor just asked me.
No, you made it. You did.
I'm pretty sure I mentioned that. Okay, all right, good. Any other notices and announcements? Just a reminder, if you want to go to the road commission training, get a hold of Chris tomorrow, and she'll get you registered. We do not have a closed session, is that correct,
That's correct.
Dave? So we, at this time, need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Wheelock, seconded by Commissioner Lathrop. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes. We stand adjourned. Thank you. Adjourned.
Today, this morning?